Okay, open up a new Colab notebook. What we're going to do now, look at another data set. And I want to go to a place I like to go to. Just type this in, hands-on gradient boosting, GitHub. This is a book that I wrote, and it has data sets that I commonly use to teach with students because I know what's in them, and it's in a book that's in circulation. It'll stay here. So let's go ahead and go into the, we'll go to the chapter 1 data set. Sorry, the chapter 1, there are data sets in here, I can tell you. And you can see there's 2 bike rentals, a bike rentals and a bike rentals cleaned. Let's actually go with the cleaned one at this point. And recall that if you have a CSV file, you can search them, have fun, but you got to click this view raw and then hit Command C, copy in the URL. Let's go ahead and put it in. URL equals in quotes. Okay, then we import pandas as PD. This will feel like the back of your hand soon. df equals pd.read_csv because it's a CSV file. We're putting the URL in there. And we are going to look at the first 5 rows using df.head. Colab is connecting. I'm going to do something fun, which is visualizing data. Okay, there are a lot of different ways to visualize data. First, let's take a look at this data. There's a bike rentals data set. You can see it's got season and year, but if you look at these, you immediately see, oh, these are not, obviously there weren't any bike rentals in the year 0. This data has been normalized, but not all of it. The weekdays make more sense, 0 to 7. Temperature has been normalized. And there's this interesting column at the far right, which is count, which is the number of bike rentals. The idea with this data set is, hey, can you use information about the day and the weather to predict the number of bike rentals? Okay, it's an interesting question. So how do we visualize data? Well, let's start with a histogram. Okay, so this is a separate library, and you're going to import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. I had it there for a second. There it is. When you see it, take it, right? Matplotlib.pyplot is PLT. Now, I always like, well, let's just do the basics. So if we do then plt.what, you can just straight do a PLT histogram. Okay, it's .hist. Now, histograms are of columns, so df, right, and then inside the brackets, in quotes, we're going to do the count, C and T. Okay, so we're going to get a sense of the spread of the bike rentals, and then finally, we just do plt.show. And that really just gets rid of a line of code that's extraneous. Press Shift-Enter to run that code, and you can see we have a histogram here. It's basically showing us the distribution of the data. And I can't look at it like this. And let me just zoom out a little bit. I will show you just a couple small changes to make it look so much better. So copy in what we have. And what we're going to do now is import seaborn as SNS. Seaborn is a nice graphical library that works with matplotlib. And then we do sns.set, which is going to change the background. Now, just from that change, look how much better it'll look. You can still have the PLT up there, press Shift-Enter to run your code. And now you can actually see the bars. Okay, it's much cleaner. This looks good. And so the way you read a histogram, right, if you take one of these bars like here, this says, well, it looks like about between, I don't know exactly, roughly 2,500 and 3,000. It looks like there are about 75 cases in which they're between 2,500 and 3,000 bike rentals. Okay. That's how you read a histogram. I want to go ahead and take this a couple steps further for you. So let's copy this again and maybe just look at just a few different options that you can sort of add to make your histograms professional. You can change the color. This is bikes. So if you're riding a bike, you might be on roads that are black, but then you can have an edge color. I think it's just edge. Sometimes I forget. I could try edge color. Okay, it's showing it underlined, indicating that it's not edge color. Is it just edge? Edge. Sometimes they'll get it. I'm going to try it. Edge color equals yellow. And you can also change the number of bins. So how many bins? That's the number of rectangles, right? Are we going to have the default, or do we prefer less or more? Maybe we want 10. We could modify it from there. You could have in here a title. No, I would only do things like the titling if you want to share it with others, right? You don't necessarily always need a title. So, histogram of bike rentals, something like this. And you could have an X label. What is the X label? Well, the X label is look at the numbers. That's the count number of bike rentals, okay? It should be in quotes, number of bike rentals. And then similarly, you could have a Y label, which for histogram is usually the count. Okay. And now another thing is your size. Okay, you can change the size. So plt.figure, fig size equals horizontal vertical. Yours probably looks much smaller than mine because I have a blown up screen for teaching. And so I don't know, for a histogram, I want horizontal of 12 and vertical of 7, something like that. You can sort of adjust it as needed. Okay, so now let's see what we get. We'll press Shift Enter. That's kind of fun. It does almost look like a road, not quite, but it was edge color. So, histogram of bike rentals, you can make your... I always look at these and I think, okay, what can I do to make it a little nicer? I think that title could be bigger. And so if you go up to your title, you can actually modify it. I think it's the font. And you can change it from, I think 12 is the default. You can make it like 15. And other, I think it's satisfactory. Oh, alpha, let me show you alpha. Alpha will be helpful here. Alpha is the transparency. And so basically 0.8 means 80% transparent. And alpha can make it look cooler. It can also modify your coloring some. Okay. So just from those two changes, okay, I got an error here, pointing it out. It must not be font. It must be size. Okay, I'm doing this from memory. You can look up the documentation. I'll show you how to do that later. There we go. Now it's bigger. And you can see it also looks a little more like a road, perhaps. So kind of cool. And this is basically the gist of it. And what's nice about this is that you can now do this with any other column. And this will also work for a lot of different data types of one-dimensional visualizations. Okay, I'm going to show you some others. But the last thing I'm going to do in this one is plt.savefig. You got to save it before you show it. This would be if you're presenting your work somewhere. Just give it the title that you have. I'm just going to copy that in. So that way I have a match. Okay, that makes sense. And now DPI, dots per inch. You get to decide how crisp it is. I have 300. I know it works well from past experience. You don't need to go overboard with these. But when you do this now, it's going to look way better, okay? Better than it does here. So where is it? It's here. If you click on this, what you can do is you download it to your computer, okay? And then you can look at it and you should get a really nice, crisp picture, okay? Looks much better. We'll come back to that. Let me just show you like a similar but different plot. So you can do violin plots. So plt dot, and if you know what it's called, okay, it's a violin, and you just start typing it. Okay, there it is. And let's just compare it to what we have here. You could do any column, of course. Let's do the count again and just plt.show. We don't need to import it again, but this will just give us a sense of what it looks like. And there we have the violin plot. Now, how do you interpret this thing? Well, it's sort of cool because what it does is it shows you like the shape of the data, which is more than a box plot does. Okay, it's sort of like a box plot with more information. I'll show you by comparison the box plot. I like the violin plots, but plt.boxplot, and again, is it called box plot? Well, they didn't prompt me, I think so. And again, this is one column. Okay, count, and I can do plt.show here. And let's see what shows up for the box plot. So the box plot is it's less graphically satisfying, but what it shows you here, it shows you the median, which it looks like it's a little over 4,000, maybe 4,300. It shows you the middle 50% of the data here, which looks like usually it's between 3,500 and 6,000. And it shows you also sort of the min and the max, which would be 0 and I don't know what that is, 8,500 perhaps. Okay, so that's what a box plot does. You might see little dots, which are considered to be outliers. This one doesn't have any. And that information, you can see it's captured here. It's not quite, I thought they usually show you the middle 50% of the data, which I don't quite see it here, but it's showing you the shape and the minimum and the maximum. So this is sort of how you can get visualizations of one-dimensional data. You could also, there are also ways to sort of do it on the whole data frame, like, you know, pandas, right? PD, okay? Is there a dot histogram? I feel like there is. I'm going slowly because I was waiting for it to prompt. Okay, it's giving that. We could try it. And the question is, can you do it on the whole data frame? Maybe it's df. Okay, yeah, that's not working. And so if on the data frame, df dot, I think there's a histogram method. There it is, df dot hist. You can see how just trying things out, if you get an error, it's okay. Looking stuff up will be very beneficial, I can tell you, which we'll get into. But this df dot hist, well, note that I'm not specifying a column, but the whole data frame. So let's see what happens if we do it. You can see it showing the different data frames, and you can see, the different histograms. There's the count one, which is the interesting one at the end. It doesn't look the best because it's sort of, I don't know. I know there are ways to fix it with the spacing. You could even try like a figsize. I don't usually use this one. Something else you might like is sns.pairplot. Go ahead and enter that, press shift enter. Oh, and then we need to, pair plot of what? Of the data frame. Do the data frame as a whole here. And this can take some time to run. Okay, I may not wait, but it shows like a nice spread of the entirety of the data frame. Okay, I prefer to do individual histograms as shown here. And so that's an introduction to visualizing really 1D data.